I've never reached a point where I said, okay, I'm here, I arrived, I'm in this season, and now I'm ready to date. I've always been very focused on my career and my goals, especially before I became a Christian. And then once I dedicated my life and I accepted Christ as my Savior, my commitment has been Christ, and then my career and everything else, right? And so there hasn't been a season where I can just tell you, oh my gosh, because I've achieved my goals, I have the right job, I have the right place, I have enough money in the bank. You know what? Now this is the time for me to like date. I will say when I have dated, I haven't been looking for it. It has happened. It has happened organically. And actually my relationships have started as friends and then eventually became more than friends. And and that has been my experience. I've never been on dating apps. I personally like to just meet someone and just grow organically. But even when, like I said, even when I've never looked for it. It's always been from friendship, and then it just grew into that, into a relationship. But I would say, looking back, looking back at those experiences and everything that I've learned, and now that I'm single, I would say the best way for me to know that I'm ready is when I'm working on myself, right? We talked about in our earlier seasons, just like the process of healing, physically, spiritually, mentally, and financially. So I think, as I continue to work on those areas, I'm becoming like, more and more ready, to just become the wife of someone long term. So it really is just a matter of where you are in life, and in your process. Everyone's different.
That is so good. Before I go to Candace, I just want to let you know that when you know you're ready to leave the season of singleness, is how well are you stewarding your season of singleness. If you're a poor steward of your season of singleness, you're not ready. That's point blank period. Unless you can steward the season God has given you now, you're not ready for the season of dating. If you can't steward a relationship with Jesus while you're single, I'm here to tell you right now, it's just gonna get harder when you're in a relationship. It's just gonna get harder when you get married. So until you know how to steward well what God has given you in your season of singleness, you're not ready to start dating just yet. So Candace, to you.
Yeah, I really appreciated your point just now about stewardship because I was thinking along very similar lines. I kind of feel inclined to answer the other side of this question, which is like, how do you know that you're not ready to just step out? And I think that because I think it's easier to know that than if you're ready. Like we can talk ourselves out of our being ready. And I think it's important to acknowledge at least that we can talk ourselves out of actually being ready because we do that. Like you're not Christ. You're not going to be perfect. But you do know there are some things about you that you need to work on, and there are some areas that you need work in. And you might not know all of them because life is a continual learning process, right? Like you're going to learn new things about yourself, and prayerfully, I know that the right spouse is going to help you learn some of those things about yourself, not all of which are pleasant to learn, but the stuff that is areas of work. Like you definitely can ask yourself, how much energy have I been putting into improving in this space? And if the answer realistically is none, then I don't think I think it's what you said, Ed, like you should just hold it right there and go back and do some work. I also think that it's important to consider this question, which is one that's popped up for me in recent years before I start dating somebody. Before you start dating one of God's children, someone who God cares very much for, has put a lot of time and energy into, has made for a very specific purpose, what do you have to offer another person made in God's image another person who is a beloved child of God, who is not for you to mess over, not for you to play with, not for you to needlessly harm? Like, are you in a space where you actually value other people like that? Or are you just interested in being in a relationship because of what it can give you? And if your answer to that is not really in favor of like care and service, then I think it might be useful to reconsider dating as well.
That is so good, Candace. Because when I look at it, is we are sons and daughters of the Most High King. So if we mess up, it's like if I have a daughter, and if a knucklehead broke my daughter's heart, I know what I'm going to do. I'm saved, but I can always ask for forgiveness later on. All right. So just imagine that if I, as a man, screw over a daughter of God, how upset he can be with me. So I love that point, Candace. So Brandon, I want to hear your perspective from it.
So good. I mean, both responses were spot on. I agree with both. Going back kind of to your stewardship, right? God saves us from people, believe it or not. I mean, because he only, he blesses you with what you can manage, right? And that includes people as well in relationships. So if you can't manage yourself, right? If you can't manage what he's put in your hand, right? Then he may be saving other people from you, believe it or not. I mean, because you have areas in your life that you need to manage better, right? So, I mean, that goes with other things too, right? I mean, you want a new job, right? But you can't manage the one that he's given you, or you want a new car, but you look at the floorboard of yours, it's dirty, it's a mess. So you get the idea, right? So, so I think that's first, but then secondly, and this kind of goes to our life's purpose, right? Going back to the, Genesis, right? To our work, right? We need to figure out what our work is, what our life's purpose is. Now, I'm not talking about your job. Your job is what you get paid to do. That's not your work. Your work is what you were born to do. So all of us need to figure out what that is. And when we get doing that and we get busy working, like Adam was working, whether that's serving in ministry, right? Basically, it's what you're born to do. Something that no one can fire you from, right? Michael Jordan, no one could ever fire him from playing basketball. That's something he was born to do. Tiger Woods, you can't fire him from playing golf. It's something he was born to do, right? So that's our life's purpose, is to figure out, what are we born to do? What has God called us to do? Start working, start doing that, stay in his presence, right? And then I think at that point, that's a good time, right, to start exploring, other individuals. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard to the society we live in because it's so transactional. And I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I've 100% found my life's purpose, and so I can't date, but I do believe that that's something that I need to focus on, right? I really need to truly focus on. I love my job, but I truly need to focus on, all right, what's my life's purpose? And get busy working, right? Because you don't need to be married to fulfill God's will. You don't need to be married to fulfill. That's not a requirement to fulfill God's will. So get busy fulfilling God's will, and you'll run into that person if it's meant to be. Marriage is temporary. It's not forever. It's not, so that's my thoughts, just get busy working and finding your purpose.
That is so good. Jalissa, it took me back to week 1 when we talk about, you don't have to be married to fulfill the purpose God has created you for. Because there's so many people that are believing the lie of the enemy, saying that before you can start that ministry, before you can start that business, before you can start that nonprofit, you got to get married. You have to get your husband, get your wife. But that's a lie from the pits of hell. God did not create you saying oh, your purpose is contingent to you marrying somebody. No, God already gave you the purpose. So your spouse is just a wonderful addition to the purpose God has already placed inside of you. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more content, subscribe over here and watch the next video over there. God bless you.